Welcome back to the channel, everybody. They've been setting themselves up. We're going to dig a little deeper. There's more. You thought that was it? No. There's more. They've been setting things up for years so that they can both profit wildly, right? They want the lion's share. Profit wildly while saving themselves, because there are the situation that's going to occur in the financial system is inevitable. There's no way out of this doom loop. Did you see? Listen, folks, there's a reason why. If you looked at the, what are they calling this here? The Federal Reserve, go to federalreserve.com, .gov, my apologies, federalreserve.gov. Look at the speech that Christopher Waller made. I believe it was September 29th. I believe that's what, yes, September 29th, 2025. And the speech is titled, "The Next Frontier of Payments Innovation." What they're saying in that document, in that speech, is what I've been saying this entire time. There's a golden age coming. They just use different wording. I say golden age. I've been saying that for a while. They're saying it's a new frontier coming, a new frontier. We've arrived. I'm going to read it to you. Then we're going to jump into another reason, aside from the massive debt, another reason why those prices on those native tokens will explode so wildly. No one will expect it. They don't believe it because they don't understand the natural entropy of the systems. There's a natural rising and falling in everything. This system's going down. They've been getting ready for the new system, hence the new financial system. Wait, let me read this to you. And then if you get a chance, read the stuff for yourself and make up your own mind about it. This is where it begins. "Thank you for inviting me." This is Christopher Waller of the Fed. So it's serious business, okay? "Thank you for inviting me to speak here today. The theme for CBOS this year, quote, the next frontiers of global finance." Really? He says it's a fitting one. "We are indeed witnessing a new frontier." Sounds like golden age, right? Does it make a difference? There's a new era we're entering into. Does it matter what wording we use? No, it doesn't. What does matter? That the technology that is going to be dominant in that period has no choice, because it must be flooded with value. It must be flooded with liquidity. That's literally what they need the most. And when that happens, the price must go up. It can't be cheap. David Schwartz told everyone it can't be cheap. There's not two prices to XRP. There's one, no matter whether they use the private ledger or public, there's one XRP price. So then what does that leave us? You got RWA. They're going to need a lot of that. I'm going to expose some today. Things got worse. Just wait. Let's finish with this. Then I'm going to drop something major on you. Okay? If you like this type of content, take those powerful hands of yours, go like this and hit that like button a couple times. Let's keep going, because they're telling you. You can read it yourself. I almost sound like somebody scratching a record. You can read it yourself. My apologies. I'm very tired, but I'm on it. I didn't want to break this continuity because I feel like I'm in the zone. New technologies like distributed ledger technology, distributed ledgers, tokenized assets, smart contracts, and artificial intelligence. You wouldn't be, when you cook all that up in a soup, you get full automation. And when you have full automation, you're making wild amounts of capital. The AI that they're cooking up right now, that they're forming right now, that's very close to artificial general intelligence. It's not what you see out here today. It's not what they're working on for the banks that they're going to employ in the future, and for these DLT, new financial system chains like XRP, et cetera. It's not your common chat GPTs and co-pilots. Those things will go out. It will solve the problems for them. It will figure out how to tokenize certain things and then move them. Who is showing interest online? It will find them who shows interest online and then try to sell it to them. Well, the people that are behind the scenes don't have to do almost anything. This is what I'm saying also is going to be possible for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. It's just that they're not. There's some people I know, because I've interacted with them, that are educating themselves so they can benefit from this, but not a lot. Full automation will, for a short time, be at the fingertips of almost everyone. Then the flame that burns brightest burns shortest, and that time period will be over. Things, as it becomes more popular, the prices are going to rise, just like it does with everything else. When things are new, low price because they want everybody to get access. Once people see that is good, price goes up. It's time to profit. Okay, but going back around, they're talking about full automation of the banking system. That's why they're talking smart contracts, AI. What you have on the XRPL? You had 2 to 3 different companies working on AI on the XRPL. You had Ripple getting so close with these politicians in the U.S. Oh, didn't they have a couple of meetings at the White House? What do you think that is? Why do you think that is? They were on the Faster Payments Council and the Faster Payments Task Force. Correct me if I'm wrong. What did the Faster Payments Council just say? What did they just say? Let's keep going. We're getting somewhere. Don't worry. So, and have the potential to make payments smarter, faster, more efficient. And I know many of you in the audience today represent firms that are using the latest cutting edge advances to bring new global solutions to the market. What firms? Wait a minute. Let's connect another thing here. In the past speeches of Christopher Waller, who did he say should lead the way when it comes to this technology? They said too much. And because of our erudition, or we're erudite, wise, we remember. What did he say? He said he believed the private sector, who? The private sector should lead the way. Who's at the forefront of the private sector? They're at the Ripple, other bank coin companies. There, and you saw those other videos I put out? There was an article released about something that Brad Garlinghouse was saying. I don't have it here, but you can look it up, okay? They're so far out ahead that Brad Garlinghouse addressed this whole illusion of Swift and the blockchain that they were making. I exposed all of that. It's not what it seems at all whatsoever. It doesn't step on XRP's toes, doesn't take anything from us whatsoever. I showed you from Swift's documents and other banks themselves. I don't know how much more clear we could be on that when we're hearing it from the horse's mouth. But the XRPL and Ripple are so far out ahead that he just dismissed it. He was like, yeah, that's nothing. He said the same thing that I was saying, just in a different way, right? If you saw that, that's how far out in advance they are. They are the ones who lead. They're leading the private sector when it comes to bank, to infrastructure deployment, development, liquidity. Global neutrality is going to be major. XRP's at the forefront. That should be a good thing. That's a good thing for me. I only speak for myself, not financial advice. Things like that matter. Why did he say that? He said essentially the same thing I was saying, because you can't get around the truth. You can read the documents for yourself, the Swift documents. Anyway, let's continue on here because we're getting somewhere. But all of this is relevant because we're heading towards a massive explosion. Here we go. The conference theme also accurately captures that we are at the next frontier. What is that? Next frontier, new financial system, golden age. Who's at the forefront of that? Who's the leader of that? Why is it here? Why? We went over the global debt the other day, right? Now I'm going to jump into this next little piece I want to give you. Make sure you look this up for yourself so you can, seeing with your own 2 eyes is better than anything. And sure, I could put screenshots up, but when you really delve into all the information, oh my goodness, my word. You see how deep the rabbit hole goes. But wait. Banks, let me ask you a question. Have banks continued to have a problem with commercial real estate in 2025? Yes. I told you they wouldn't solve the problem. So you have that. Well, wait. That compiled with, is that going to be solved? No. One of the problems, obviously, once upon a time, was widely covered to be remote work. We don't. Wait, what? We don't really hear about that anymore, do we? It would lead one, and this is how manipulative the mainstream media is, because when they don't cover something, when they bury it, it makes it seem as though it's no longer a problem, but it is. Just like the whole de-dollarization, they don't talk about that much anymore, don't talk about BRICS too much anymore, but that remains a problem. But because they don't cover it, it may seem to some as though it's not such. No, it is. Remote work is still a problem. See, now what's happening, instead of just outright remote work, because I know they'll put out these little headlines where some institutions are taking a hard line on that. They're saying, no, you got to come back to the office. Yeah, and 88% of 500 companies still have remote work or hybrid schedules. So that means that those commercial real estate, the offices and such like that, that are sitting empty and just devastating the bank's positioning, it continues to get worse. You think, nah, here we go. Here's some numbers. And I want you to look into this if you have time. I know you're busy people. I know this. Look at this. So here we go. How many banks of all sizes are at risk because they have not 100%, not 200%, they're exceeding 300% commercial real estate. Wait. I know I completely messed that up. I'm just going to read it to you. My apologies, but you're going to get this information. You're going to get this work. What did Loaded Luck say? You're going to get this work. Approximately 1,788 banks of all sizes were found to have commercial real estate exposure greater than 300% of their total equity capital. Folks, there is a problem. There's a problem. It goes further. 59 of the largest 158 banks are facing exposures greater than 300% threshold. What? This all makes sense when we go back. I still have it pulled up. I'm not going to close this. I have it pinned to my thing, my desktop here. When we go back to the FCC, what was this? WeissRatings.com. And they're telling you is over 649 banks at risk of collapse. And that's only the most extreme. There's a tier right below them that if they meet like one more criteria, they would move into that 649 banks. Now you're hearing from multiple sources that thousands of banks are at risk of collapse. Sure, they could prop them up a little bit longer. I'm not saying they can't. They've done it already. I thought these banks were going to go down years ago. You want to be honest, but they propped them up. What can you do? If you give someone unlimited access to capital, sure, they can continue to operate. What happens if they can't do that any longer? And that's why the debt, watching the U.S. debt, the global debt is important. Wait, let's keep going. And I didn't like what I saw recently. You know, we saw certain problems happen in China, even to the point where a lot of their financial industry and businesses were waiting on stimulus. Then all of a sudden, once things started to look just a tad bit better, all these articles start coming out that everything was good over there. Everything's okay. What? It hasn't been okay in years. They're not the only one. There's a problem in the global financial system, hence why you have XRP, the XRPL, Hedera, Chainlink, Solana, Stellar, Algorand positioned around the world so that when it's time to swap systems, there's going to be a swapping, that they're in position to dominate and take over outright. The old system is finished in so many ways. I mean, the old system has the problem with commercial real estate. They have the problem with the global debt. Their fiat currencies are losing power. I'm just going to put it that way. They're losing power. They've been weaponized. They're cutting each other's financial systems off from half of the world so they don't have global reach. So what's the point? They're going to have to utilize even more intermediaries. Well, if you don't want to utilize intermediaries, and you could think of the new financial system as that, it's a neutral layer that everything will flow through. Hence why the whole SWIFT system is nonsense, balderdash, poppycock. It's ridiculous. You don't have global reach anymore. Let's just be reasonable here. Let's be rational here. So you cannot be the dominant system any longer. The SIP system is catching up with you. Did you see how much the SIP system, the China system, caught up with SWIFT? Is unbelievable. But they'll have you believe that SWIFT is just as overly dominant. So no, it's not. No, it's not. And that's why Ripple and Garlinghouse can be so comfortable. They know they're about to take over. They know XRP is about to explode. Hence the XRP treasuries. See how everything, we're pulling a lot together, are we not? Take a piece of paper, go through the video, this video, and you write down everything that we've just discussed and look into it yourself. You'll see all these connections, but they all lead to one conclusion. One conclusion. That these bank coins, and that once more, this is why they're doing treasuries. This is why they're getting in deep with the bank coins in every way possible. They own them outright. They own them through ETFs. They have them in treasuries. They're utilizing the systems. Do you not see this? Why? They could have used them in one or two ways. No, they're getting deep with them in every possible way. So that when or if something happens, or who knows when, I don't have a timeline. And we definitely cannot trust anything. At least I'll speak for myself. I don't say we can't. I'll say I can't. I definitely don't trust anything they're saying as far as timelines. I'm going to trust the research and go with multiple sources and, take the average of that and see what they're saying. And somewhere in the middle is the truth, maybe. And I'll go with what I see. I don't trust them in their timelines. So I don't have a timeline on this either, but I'm not going to come to you like that. But when it does happen that they can profit, or the little bit that's left, there's only going to be a little bit of bank coin holders left, in my humble opinion, once this all goes down. There's going to be so many shakeouts, and a lot of bank coin holders got in deep early. I think they're getting out $10, $10 to $15. I think they're out of there. That's it. They're out of there, which is not a problem. I'm not saying don't get out of there. This is not financial advice. I'm just saying I think there's only going to be a little bit left, and they're anticipating that. That's why they're getting so deep. They're not worried about retail. They're not worried about regular people. These banks go down at some point, folks, and I think about this. I want to ask you this question. Let me put this in here, then we'll cover a little bit of Bitcoin news. We'll come back tomorrow to go a little bit deeper. There's more, but I wanted to give you all of my thoughts, okay? All right? Can you respect that? I respect you. Can you respect that? If you were the banks, and I've toyed with this thought for a long time, but because look at that, 1,788 folks, that has risen dramatically. We've been keeping up with this over the years. 1,788 is wild. Everything has gotten worse, just like Weiss Ratings and all these other professional companies that keep up with this have said. They were telling the truth. Leads me to this thought. The banking system, why would they not, maybe, I'm just playing with thoughts here. I'm not saying this is going to happen. They stand to profit wildly. Now, they're still in the accumulation phase. And listen, banks, asset managers, governments, they're all the same to me, in my opinion. They're so intertwined, folks. They're seemingly one entity, in my humble opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But if you were them and you knew that the collapse of just a few of these, it doesn't have to be all of them, you sacrifice some of them, a collapse of just a few of them would make that XRP that you hold, the HBAR you hold, Chainlink, Solana, right? They have these Solana treasuries, right? XRP treasuries, Bitcoin, and they were talking about doing the Chainlink treasury. I don't know if that actually occurred as of yet. That was like 2 weeks ago. But if you were them and you knew that a few of these banks sacrificed, you caused them to collapse, let them perish. That it was skyrocket, the value of these cryptos that you hold, you think they wouldn't take that shot? I don't know. I would have to respectfully disagree. The biggest money grab, the biggest value grab of all time, you could orchestrate that just by letting them perish. Remember before, the contagion would have been wild when SVB and Silvergate went down. Remember that? All those banks went down a few years ago. Once again, they created what was essentially a bailout system that allowed them to borrow an unlimited amount of capital. What if they don't do that this time? All they would have to do is not do that this time. When these banks that collapse, there will be so much contagion, people would run to gold and they would run to those cryptos. Banks would be forced to utilize the liquidity in other aspects of the native tokens. They would run from stable coins. You know why? Stable coins exacerbate bank runs. They make it easy to do a bank run at the press of a button. They would halt that. But those native tokens will be in flow because you need that liquidity. You think they wouldn't take that shot? You think that's not part of the plan? I mean, there's no guarantees in anything, but that's a lot of temptation for what many people out there already believe to be very corrupt individuals. I'll keep my eye on this. I'll tell you. Interbank pay, folks. I'm actually at a loss for words. I have so many thoughts. That ever happened to you? I have so many thoughts. It's like, which one do I speak on? So there's that. We'll come back tomorrow. We're gonna go a little bit deeper with this. I have some more info, but let's go here to a little bit of Bitcoin news because I don't want to make that so small like I've been doing. There's just been so much Bankcoin news. It's unbelievable. So that's exposed. Their banks are at risk. Oh, let me put this in, folks. You remember? Keep in mind for tomorrow's video. You remember those banks that collapsed earlier in the year? Remember that? Now, they'll downplay it and say, well, they were smaller banks. There's been a continuity of bank problems. 2 banks went down. Remember that? Did you look into that earlier this year? It was a sign. Why did they go down? What happened to them? Because if you know that, you'll see that it's the same problems across the board for all of these banks. They're in massive trouble. And these are just the ones in the US. We're not even talking about the banks globally. When you see that picture, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I thought I had some information here, but we'll come back to that. What 2 banks collapsed earlier in the year? Huh? All right, so now let's go here to a little bit of Bitcoin news, okay? Hope you're all doing fantastic out there. This article is titled Bitcoin Price Flirts with $120,000 as Citi Gives Strong Bitcoin Price Target. All right, Bitcoin climbed above $119,000 on Thursday, bucking a broader market downturn as investors sought safety following the U.S. government shutdown. All right. I suppose some people see that as highly significant. But it says here, Bitcoin traded at highs of, folks, they're always threatening to shut down. This has happened before. I look at this a little bit differently just because of my experience. If you could disagree with that, I'm fine with that. Bitcoin traded at highs of $119,890 in morning trading, even as Wall Street stocks slid on political dysfunction in Washington. All right. Wait, I'm scrolling down. I want to get past all this political nonsense. Bitcoin closed September at 5% at around 114,000. We know that's been showing great resilience. Past trends suggest October and November often drive strong gains, meaning Bitcoin could push past $150,000 by year end. That was my number. 150K was my number. You remember? One of my original Bitcoin numbers. Although now, knowing all of the strong catalyst now, clearly it can go way past that. I'm not saying by year end it could go past that, but at some point in the near future, it can go much further than 150K. And I believe they intend that as well. You look at all the different companies that have to get into Bitcoin. You have BlackRock literally saying that they're trying to get more Wall Street companies to get into Bitcoin. You have nations and states trying to get into Bitcoin. No way it stays below $150,000 for much, much longer. In my humble opinion, not financial advice. It says fueled by the post-halving supply squeeze. What? No, fueled by companies getting involved and buying a ton of Bitcoin. That's the real. Why do they do this? I mean, each his own. Maybe that's what they feel the truth is, but I just vehemently disagree. It says Citigroup's analysts reinforced a positive 12-month outlook for Bitcoin in a note to clients this week, setting a which no, they probably made it public, right? Made the note public. You imagine like they're sending out notes and some client is just telling on them, just snitching on them, just sending their notes to the media. That's hilarious. I'm sorry, I find that hilarious. Tell on them. I want to tell it all. We want to know. Setting a Bitcoin target of $181,000. Really? Okay. Not bad. While revising their year-end forecast to $132,000. Oh, you're still trying to play it safe, huh? I thought you were doing good with the 181,000. It's close to 200K. I think next year you see 200K Bitcoin. My humble opinion. I only speak for me, not financial advice. But 132 right now. Come on, by year-end. All right. Okay. I guess I can respect it. The year end is right there, so I can respect that, I suppose. So listen, we can adjust. We can think about things, measure them, and adjust. No big deal. That's what life is. That's what wisdom is, being able to adjust. It's ignorance when you're not able to adjust. The bank cited robust inflows, estimated at $7.5 billion through year end, and growing demand from institutional investors. Quote, we are more positive on Bitcoin compared to Ether as it captures an outsized portion of incremental flows into crypto markets. All right. So Bitcoin's looking super bullish in my humble opinion. And now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.